He was called China's most handsome monk, a symbol of purity, peace, and fame. Yet, on a quiet August night, that serenity was shattered forever. Qiu Feng, a 21-year-old Shaolin prodigy admired across Asia, died in what authorities called a simple car accident. But almost immediately, nothing about his death made sense. Posts vanished, witnesses went silent, and rumors exploded. Whispers of organ harvesting, secret factions within the temple, and powerful figures who might have wanted him gone. How could a young monk, known for his discipline and awareness, die so mysteriously? And why does every trace of truth seem to disappear the moment it surfaces? Tonight, we dive into the haunting mystery of Qiu Feng's final hours, and what many believe was never meant to be uncovered. Stay with Criminal Tracks as we uncover what really happened behind one of China's most chilling modern tragedies. Qiu Feng's life seemed like a story too perfect to end so soon. At only 21, he had become an unlikely celebrity, an image that captured both the purity of tradition and the magnetism of modern fame. Born in Henan Province, the birthplace of Shaolin culture, Qiu Feng was trained in martial arts from a young age. Those who met him described him as calm, humble, and quietly determined, the kind of young man who could command a room without raising his voice. His discipline was unmistakable, but what truly made him stand out was his striking appearance. Social media nicknamed him China's most handsome Shaolin monk, a title that began as a playful remark but soon became his defining identity. He appeared in short videos demonstrating graceful martial arts moves in flowing robes, his serene expression radiating focus. The contrast between his traditional training and modern appeal drew millions of views. Within a year, Qiu Feng became a symbol of balance between old and new China. To the older generation, he represented a revival of Shaolin values: discipline, humility, and self-control. To younger fans, he was a living embodiment of aesthetic perfection, a monk who looked like he had stepped out of a movie scene. His popularity grew fast, and live stream platforms began inviting him to perform or share short philosophical messages. Though he remained connected to the temple, many noticed how his lifestyle was slowly evolving. He appeared at charity events, took photos with fans, and was reportedly exploring ways to use his fame for good causes. People admired that he never spoke arrogantly about his fame. Even in interviews, his answers were thoughtful and restrained. He often said he wanted to help bridge the gap between spiritual culture and modern youth. On the night of his death in early August 2024, Qiu Feng was reportedly traveling from Henan to Zhejiang province for a charity performance. It was an ordinary trip, one that thousands of entertainers and guests made each day. The event was supposed to raise funds for underprivileged children, something he was passionate about. Witnesses later said he looked cheerful and relaxed when he boarded the private hire car, chatting briefly with the driver before the vehicle left. It was evening, and the road stretched long and quiet under the summer heat. Nothing suggested that tragedy was just a few miles ahead. According to official reports, sometime that night, the car collided with a large truck on the highway. The impact was severe. The driver was pronounced dead at the scene, and Qiu Feng was rushed to the hospital, where doctors tried to save him. News outlets later confirmed that he died the same night. The early details were straightforward, presented as a tragic accident with no sign of foul play. The headlines were almost identical. China's most handsome Shaolin monk dies in car crash at 21. The reports emphasized the shock of fans, the sadness of those who knew him, and the disbelief spreading online. The Shaolin Temple did not release a detailed statement beyond confirming his passing and expressing condolences. For a public so accustomed to hearing about celebrities from entertainment or business, the death of a young monk felt different. It was not only about the loss of a rising public figure, but also about losing a living connection to one of China's most recognizable cultural symbols. Within hours, hashtags about Qiu Feng flooded Chinese social media platforms. Weibo users wrote thousands of comments expressing grief. Many said they couldn't believe someone so full of life could be gone so suddenly. Others shared clips of his performances, noting how serene he always looked, how calm his movements were, how he seemed untouchable by the chaos of modern life. As the story spread beyond China, English-language media quickly picked it up. South China Morning Post wrote about the disbelief surrounding his death. NDTV and other international outlets repeated the same key facts. He was traveling to a charity event. The car hit a truck, and both men died. The details were clean, almost sterile, leaving readers with more questions than answers. For many, the simplicity of the official narrative felt too thin. How could such a disciplined, alert person die in a random traffic crash? Why was there no information about the other vehicle or any photographs from the scene? But those doubts would come later. In those first few days, the reaction was pure sorrow. Online, fans made digital shrines with his photos, framed by candles and temple bells. Others posted short videos combining his past live streams with soft background music, turning them into tributes. He had become more than a monk. To his followers, Qiu Feng represented something rare, a person who carried spiritual discipline without arrogance, beauty without vanity, and kindness without expectation. The sadness around his passing was not just about a death. It was about the feeling that something deeply peaceful had been ripped from the modern world. Even among the monks who rarely spoke to the media, there was a quiet mourning. Reports mentioned that those at the temple held a small ceremony for him, chanting prayers for peace and remembrance. His photo, in which he wore the simple Shaolin robe and a slight smile, became one of the most shared images in China for weeks. In every repost, people added the same sentence: "May he find the peace he always taught us to seek." As the initial shock began to fade, questions started to fill the silence that official statements left behind. The story of a simple car accident felt incomplete to many, especially to those who had followed Qiu Feng's life closely. The police reports were brief, giving no names of witnesses, no details about the truck driver, and no mention of who owned the private hire vehicle. Even the exact time of the crash was uncertain, with some early posts claiming it happened before midnight on August 7th, while others listed the morning of August 8th. The vagueness became fuel for speculation. Fans on Weibo began comparing screenshots, searching for inconsistencies, and sharing what little information they could gather before many posts mysteriously disappeared overnight. On Chinese social media, discussions about Qiu Feng's death were quickly censored. Hashtags related to him briefly trended, then vanished from the platform's search results. That only made people more curious. Some users began claiming they had seen short video clips of the wreck before they were deleted, showing details that didn't match the official story. Others said they tried to contact people in the area where the crash occurred, but local residents were unwilling to speak. One blogger who had written a long post questioning the timeline suddenly removed it, explaining in a follow-up that he had been advised to stop writing about the incident. In the age of instant communication, silence became its own kind of confession. At the center of the confusion was the question of why Qiu Feng was traveling alone. As a Shaolin monk connected to major cultural programs, it was unusual for him to attend public events without companions from the temple or an assistant. Normally, such appearances were coordinated by event organizers who ensured transportation and safety. The fact that he had booked a private hire car himself raised eyebrows. Some speculated that he might have been acting independently, perhaps without the temple's knowledge. Others wondered if someone else had arranged the trip under false pretenses. The unanswered questions about who booked the car and who approved the journey gave rise to theories that something more than coincidence had guided that night's events. The more people searched, the stranger the digital trail became. On live stream platforms where Qiu Feng used to broadcast short messages about meditation and discipline, fans began noticing that some of his older videos had been taken down. His main account, which once had hundreds of thousands of followers, went offline briefly before returning with certain posts missing. A few users claimed that just days before his death, Qiu Feng had seemed distracted and uneasy during a short stream, ending it abruptly after glancing at something off camera. While there is no verified footage of this, the rumor spread quickly, painting a picture of a man who might have known something was wrong. International media, mostly relying on Chinese reports, treated the case as a human interest story. Outlets like the South China Morning Post and NDTV highlighted the emotional reaction from fans, calling it disbelief and heartbreak. But none went further than the official police narrative. Yet within the Chinese-speaking internet, the tone shifted toward suspicion. Threads began connecting Qiu Feng's death to other young public figures who had also died in sudden accidents. Some pointed out eerie similarities with previous cases: rising fame, mysterious circumstances, and abrupt silence from authorities. This pattern became a topic of fascination. In private chat groups, users referred to it as the disappearing youth syndrome, a whispered idea that young people who gained too much attention in certain cultural or political spaces tended to vanish under inexplicable conditions. Meanwhile, Qiu Feng's connection to the Shaolin Temple also raised complex feelings. The temple's official WeChat account posted a short message honoring his memory, but avoided all questions about the crash. No senior monks gave interviews. To outsiders, this restraint seemed cold. To insiders, it was a way to prevent controversy from disrupting the temple's public image. The Shaolin Temple, though ancient and revered, operates in a delicate balance between religion, business, and politics. Any scandal, especially one involving a popular young figure, could draw unwanted attention. This silence was interpreted by some as respect for tradition, but by others as a sign that the truth was being carefully managed. Adding to the tension were small but strange inconsistencies reported by independent bloggers. Some claimed that Qiu Feng's body had been cremated unusually fast, within 48 hours of his death. Others said that his family was not allowed to see him before the cremation, citing procedural reasons. There were even whispers that his remains had been moved to an undisclosed location after the ceremony. None of these details were confirmed, but they circulated widely across minor news forums and WeChat groups, giving rise to endless speculation. Public mourning soon turned into quiet frustration. Fans created pages to share memories and discuss theories, but many were repeatedly taken down for violating community guidelines. One user wrote, "Every time we talk about him, something disappears." Another said, "If it was really just an accident, why hide so much?" Those sentiments reflected a growing distrust of official communication in an era when people were used to secrets being buried beneath polished headlines. Outside China, Qiu Feng's story became a topic of fascination for YouTube channels and independent bloggers who translated Weibo posts and tried to connect the dots. Some claimed to have insider information, suggesting that Qiu Feng had become too famous and too marketable for certain people's comfort. They said that sponsorship deals and live stream contracts were being negotiated behind the scenes, turning a humble monk into a commercial product. According to these narratives, his death conveniently halted what could have been a media empire centered around a religious figure, a possibility that might have angered conservative forces within the temple or beyond. In the absence of proof, stories began to fill the gaps. A handful of users said that days before his death, a mysterious account on Douyin had left comments under Qiu Feng's posts saying, "You've gone too far from the path." The account was deleted after his death. Screenshots of the comments circulated briefly before being flagged as fabricated content. Yet even the denial added fuel to the fire. It reminded many of similar cases where denial was followed by the quiet disappearance of those who asked too many questions. For a young man who had lived by calmness and meditation, the noise surrounding his death became unbearable. The public wanted an explanation, but the authorities never provided one beyond a short statement of condolence. In modern China, where fame and truth often collide, Qiu Feng's death became another example of how easily clarity can dissolve into confusion. Every missing timestamp, every deleted post, Every unanswered question only deepened the sense that there was more to this story than a tragic highway crash. And by the time those closest to him returned to their silence, the world had already begun turning his final journey into something far more mysterious than anyone could confirm. In the months that followed, the story of Qiu Feng's death took on a life of its own. The more time passed, the more his memory blurred into a haze of devotion and suspicion. His fans refused to let him fade quietly. They turned their grief into obsession, combing through every fragment of his past live streams, every quote he had ever written, searching for hidden messages or subtle warnings. The more they watched, the more they convinced themselves that Qiu Feng had sensed something. His calmness in those final broadcasts, his occasional pauses between words, even the faint flicker in his eyes, viewers began interpreting them as signs of silent fear. It was as if, in hindsight, everyone wanted to believe he had known he was walking towards something inevitable. One of the most persistent rumors claimed that Qiu Feng's death was not accidental at all, but part of a cover-up linked to organ trafficking. The claim spread first on Chinese forums before reaching overseas platforms. The story alleged that when Qiu Feng was taken to the hospital, he was still alive, but that his body was handled by a special unit, and his organs were removed under unclear circumstances. The rumor cited an anonymous nurse who claimed to have seen his body transferred without documentation. No evidence was ever provided, yet the tale circulated widely, echoing long-standing fears in Chinese society about underground organ trade. It was an accusation too dark to prove, but too sensational to ignore. Even those who doubted it admitted that the secrecy surrounding his medical treatment only deepened the unease. Another theory grew from within the monastic world itself. Some said Qiu Feng's fame had unsettled the quiet hierarchy of the Shaolin Temple. Older monks had reportedly expressed discomfort with how his image was being commercialized, how his face had become a brand used to attract sponsors and tourists. In a world built on discipline and anonymity, Qiu Feng had unintentionally become a celebrity. Some insiders described tensions between traditionalists, who saw him as a distraction, and modern promoters who viewed him as the future of Shaolin's global image. The rumor suggested that these conflicting interests might have turned dangerous, that perhaps someone saw in his death a way to restore balance and silence controversy. A third theory drew connections between Qiu Feng's fate and a supposed pattern of young Chinese figures dying in suspicious circumstances. Online commentators grouped him with actors, influencers, and activists who had also died suddenly in car crashes or hotel incidents. They believed these deaths shared too many coincidences to be random. The phrase accidental disappearance began circulating among WeChat circles, hinting that car crashes were an acceptable disguise for eliminating individuals who had become inconvenient. For many, it wasn't about Qiu Feng alone anymore. He became a symbol of something larger, the quiet erasure of voices that had grown too visible in a system uncomfortable with unpredictability. As the rumors grew, so did his legend. Tribute pages began mixing spirituality with conspiracy, presenting Qiu Feng as both martyr and mystery. People wrote that his soul had transcended, that his death carried karmic meaning. Others argued that his fame in life had brought imbalance to his path, and that fate had corrected it. The mix of devotion and speculation created a new form of modern mythology. Videos emerged on Douyin showing candlelit shrines in homes, where people meditated in his name. Artists painted portraits of him surrounded by lotus petals, a serene expression on his face as though untouched by earthly chaos. For many young people disillusioned by modern fame, Qiu Feng became a tragic icon, a reminder that purity and popularity could not coexist for long. The official story never changed. Local police confirmed once more that the death was caused by a traffic accident. No criminal investigation was opened. The Shaolin Temple continued its daily routines, and no further comments were made. Yet, the silence seemed louder with each passing month. Some journalists tried to revisit the case, but found no new data, only that the crash records were now sealed and unreachable to the public. When one foreign reporter requested access through formal channels, the answer came back short: information unavailable. In Western media, his death faded into the archives as just another tragic story. But inside China's fragmented internet, it remained a living ghost. Discussion threads would vanish and then reappear under coded language, using poetic references to evade censorship. People referred to him as the monk of the missing road, or the one who saw the shadow. Each nickname kept his story alive while sidestepping detection. That quiet rebellion kept his memory burning, even as official narratives tried to cool it down. By the time the first anniversary of his death arrived, thousands of people had left digital offerings on his old live stream page. Some wrote long letters to him, promising to keep meditating or studying martial arts in his honor. Others continued posting theories, linking his final moments to unseen forces. There were claims of new witnesses, mysterious phone calls, and deleted chats. None verified, yet all deeply believed by someone. His story had evolved into a kind of collective ritual, where disbelief and reverence merged into one. In the end, Qiu Feng's death became two stories existing side by side. One was simple, tragic, and official: a young monk killed in a road accident. The other was mythic, disturbing, and endlessly retold: a tale of innocence caught in the machinery of something vast and hidden. Between those two realities, his image remained suspended, half saint, half secret. And for those who still whisper his name online, Qiu Feng is not just a memory of what happened, but a symbol of everything that can vanish in an instant when truth is left unspoken. The official story says it was an accident, but silence, deletion, and fear tell another tale. Qiu Feng's death remains one of China's most haunting mysteries. A perfect life ended by imperfect truth. Whether his story was erased to protect someone or simply forgotten, the world may never know. Yet every unanswered question keeps his legend alive, reminding us that sometimes peace is more dangerous than chaos. If you want to explore more untold stories and hidden truths like this, subscribe to Criminal Tracks, where every mystery deserves to be heard before it's buried.